The year is 2005. The original Xbox has only been on the market for 4 years, but with the hit Halo 2, it's doing better than ever. Microsoft wanted to prove that they were more than just a one-hit wonder, and they got to work on their next console. Wanting to beat Sony to the market, they would push towards the future, but this would also lead to pain. This is the story of the launch of the Xbox 360. So, by November 2004, the Xbox was on the rise. It had been on the market for 3 years, and it had a strong start, yet with the release of Halo 2, it would become more popular than ever. Many gamers were hopping on Xbox Live in what would become the console's highest-selling game. Yet the generation had been around since 1999 with the Dreamcast, and at this point, companies like Sony and Nintendo had their eyes on the future, and of course, Microsoft did too. Yet Microsoft was planning to get a head start. They had conceived of the Xbox 360 as early as 2003, which was also the year Peter Moore joined Microsoft, who would be a major part of building up the 360 launch. Though the name of the new Xbox was never quite pinned down, with names like Xbox 2, Xbox FS, and even more popping up, yet the name Xbox 360 had always been present since early rumors. They also announced in 2003 that they were now working with ATI to produce all of their future graphics chips. Microsoft was not holding back, and they wanted in on the next generation of gaming. It's surprising though, the Xbox was only 2 years old in 2003, yet with an uptick in console sales, Microsoft seemed to think an early lead into the next generation could help solidify its position against competitors. However, this would leave some consumers in the dust, especially as 2004 rolled around with anticipation in the eventual release of Halo 2. Many gamers had hopped onto an Xbox for the first time because of this game, and they were learning to love the games of the Xbox and the Xbox Live service. Yet they felt the rush to the market was worth it, and as early as 2004, rumors were spreading that the Xbox 360 was looking for a holiday 2005 release, which if those rumors were accurate, that would mean there would be some consequences along the way. In 2004, the next Xbox would be internally called the Xenon, which also happened to be the name of the processor being developed by IBM. IBM was working with Sony at the time making CPUs. Sony had been working with IBM on a 5-year plan to create processors for their upcoming PS3. After shopping around, Microsoft decided they were going to go with IBM to create their CPU. Well, both manufacturers were vying for a holiday 2005 launch, yet they would not use the same chip. Instead, Microsoft would use a derivative of Sony's chip, which gave them a speedy leg up towards production. Not only that, but Microsoft was so willing to rush on the 360 that they were buying parts before they were completed, while Sony was patiently waiting. Some people working on it describe it as almost stealth-like, working with Microsoft on a better deal behind closed doors. Even in its finished product, there were errors for both Sony and Microsoft, yet Microsoft had ordered backups while Sony did not, and Sony had to wait a while to get their new ones, which may have set them up for that 2006 debut. The rush was sinking in, and on top of all of this was the hope to make the 360 profitable. See, the original Xbox was not a profitable console in terms of hardware due to its hard drive, but with this one there was a hope that the hardware would be profitable. Yet as time went on, they wanted to add a hard drive and add wireless controllers to the design. This would fill out the slim design that they were going for, and then they would just add holes to the case for airflow. According to an article from The Guardian, it was all small incremental additions over a fast development that would lead to a lot of compromises and errors along the way. Yet constantly committed to that holiday 2005 release date, that meant as the year rolled along that more and more elements were added. Those early failure rates were high, yet as we would find out later at launch, there were many errors still hidden behind prolonged use, something that could have been tested with more time. Yet it felt like they were crunched on time as 2005 would come along and Project Xenon would finally get its name.
Welcome to the Avalon in Hollywood, California. I'm Elijah Wood, and MTV is here to bring you an exclusive look at the new Xbox. a console that's about to change digital entertainment forever.
On May 12, 2005, the public would get its first taste of what the future held for the Xbox. In one of the most mid-2000s ways possible, it was an MTV special called MTV Presents Xbox The Next Generation. It was hosted by Elijah Wood and featured performances from The Killers. The beginning of this whole reveal goes by so fast, with the Xbox 360 being displayed on a table, some insane editing happens, and then Elijah Wood cuts straight to The Killers. Along the way for the episode, Tony Hawk and West Coast Customs show up. You have to watch the special after this video if you can. It's a blast from the past and easily accessible on YouTube. Yet the special does sell that the 360 was going to be for the public. Unlike the first Xbox, which felt like a PC experience for the living room, the 360 was more consumer-minded. It was going to be an interconnected space for all media. It was a way to connect with gamers across the world easily, which felt like a perfect bubble for what gamers wanted out of a 7th generation console. Xbox Live was built into the design, and you could always be online. Your gamer tag was an extension of who you were, and you were able to show off achievements you could earn in games. You could message and voice chat with your friends, as well as buy online games through an online marketplace. The idea was that you would never have to leave your 360. If you wanted games, music, and even movies, the 360 was your place to do it all, and you needed nothing else. Yet they had not forgotten the 360's core by showing off the graphical leap this Xbox was taking, showing off Rare's then upcoming Perfect Dark Zero, which did have a clean and beautiful look for 2005. Though if you look online, there are some people that were really disappointed by the games shown off here. The original Xbox's power was behind its online connectivity and its power, and those still remained a strong point for the 360. And this gaudy display on MTV helped solidify that Xbox was taking a stance to become even more dominant in the gaming market. When E3 2005 rolled around, there would be much built-up hype for the console. Microsoft was trying to push that they were starting the HD era, yet if you look online, there was some skepticism as far as the selection of games that were shown off. Yet one major bonus was that some of the original Xbox's library would be backwards compatible on the 360, meaning games like Halo 2 could still be played online on your 360, giving you more reason to go ahead and just hop over to the next generation. Of course, there would be blunders along the way, with Bill Gates popping up to talk about the 360 with Time magazine, and he was hyping up how early the console would release, saying that by the time Sony would launch, they would have to deal with Halo 3. A statement he would have to walk back because people were expecting Halo 3 to launch within the first year of the 360, and that did not happen. Yet with the holiday 2005 launch still in projection, there was still more scrambling going on behind the scenes. The stakes are rising as we inch closer to the newly announced North American launch day of November 22, 2005, with European and Japanese launches in December. Yet, as these consoles were entering into production for launch, many errors were popping up in the production line. Overheating consoles, underperforming graphics cards, and a DVD drive with a disk scratching problem, all of which would have to be tinkered with, but not too much, otherwise it might affect the highly lucrative launch window. During production, the failure rates of many of these consoles were a lot higher than what we would normally see, but the stakes were so high that there was no stopping the momentum. In August, the price point of the console was announced with two versions, with your standard 360 with the 20GB hard drive that would cost $399 US, and the core system, which came with no hard drive, which would cost $100 less. Along the way, there would be an extensive range of launch titles announced in the US, with 18 games total. Some notable ones would be Perfect Dark Zero and Cameo, which were both from Rare, Amped 3 and Call of Duty 2, Quake 4, Ridge Racer 6, Project Gotham Racing 3, and Condemned. There were a bunch more, and it feels like every sport got a launch title on the console, so every type of gamer had a chance to find a game to enjoy. Yet there would also be arcade titles available on the digital storefront, along with Hexic, an Xbox Live Arcade game, which was a lot of people's first ever 360 game. So much hype was there, and I'm sure people working on the console felt immense pressure. Though there was a smaller supply of consoles than anticipated, they were still sent out the stores, and the clock was ticking down to November 22nd. Launch day, November 22nd, the 360 was a smash hit. There were lines around big box stores and people were waiting for this one. Shelves were cleared out and due to low supply, many places went without 360s and the demand was high. With that, you saw something that continues to this day of reselling new consoles. eBay was full of 360s selling at insane prices for those who really wanted it, and people were buying them, a trend that still continues on to this day. It was a success, and the biggest game success of the bunch was Call of Duty 2, which sold to the amount of 3 out of 4 360 buyers that holiday season bought it with their console, which is insane. The next highest selling games would be Madden 06 and Need for Speed Most Wanted. The 360 itself would sell fast, with it being one of the fastest console launches of all time. Yet almost immediately, rumors were out of defective Xboxes. Not quite the red ring yet, but there were issues of consoles overheating fast with a vast amount of error codes. Those faulty systems from the 360 rush were leaking out, so the launch did have some underlying issues that Microsoft tried to downplay at first, despite a growing number of defective units that were coming off the factory line, which would grow and grow along with 360s being sent back. As we know today, this would lead to the red ring years, which was caused by soldering joints that were cracking due to thermal stress because it was constantly heating and cooling. Not only that, if the 360 was jostled, it would scratch discs. And this is an issue that was never really addressed in later console revisions besides a sticker saying don't move the console with a game inside. Unlike the red ring, which would get some fixes later on. Yet that was a little after launch, and I think a full video on the red ring experience is necessary. But also it's fun to foreshadow that this console still had issues from the beginning, and there were latent issues that would pop up later. So a rush to market did get them high yields. Launch day and that window was a success monetarily for the console, and despite console issues, the 360 still ended up being very successful for the rest of the decade, despite Nintendo leading the charge with the Wii. Yet for its first year as the only next-gen console on the market, that initial start helped them get a major boost in the industry, especially against the PS3's debut, which would be a year later and would be ridiculed for its extreme pricing for the time. Looking back, we can see those issues for that rush to launch, with the extension of console warranties due to faulty consoles, which led to significant losses down the line, and a lot of customers would leave the Xbox after this one because they were burned by the lack of foresight that Microsoft had at this launch. Yet somehow, the 360 has persevered against its bad PR and is considered by many one of, if not one of the best gaming consoles of all time. It led here to today, where I'm still playing my 360 and I'm amazed by its wild start. It really shouldn't have worked well, but it did, and it also creates a hell of a story. I hope you enjoyed this little look back at the launch of the Xbox 360. And if you want to see a red ring video, be sure to let me know. I would love to go more in depth and talk about post-launch issues that the 360 had. Be sure to leave a like as it really helps me out in the algorithm. Comment below with any 360 launch memories. I would love to hear from you. And check out my second channel, Camp Extras, where I talk about other gaming topics, and subscribe to keep up with more content like this here. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. You really help out the channel, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.